David had a lot of things to think about. Sometimes our sin puts us in a situation where we do a whole lot of thinking. And that's what David did. And that thinking turned into praying, and that praying turned into hope. I hope you'll see it today.
Welcome to Everyday Truth with Kurt Skelly. We believe the Bible is true and relevant to everyone, everywhere, every day. If today's conversation is a help to you, take a moment to leave a review or share it with a friend. Thanks for listening. Now, let's join Kurt for today's episode.
Hey friends, welcome back. Hope you had a great time with your family and friends over the Christmas holiday. Wherever you are or wherever you traveled, hope you're doing well. And hope that you are ready to go because we've got an entire psalm we're going to attempt to get finished today, Psalm 39. So would you find your place if you're following along, and let's dive right in. Psalm 39. The intro says, "To the chief musician, even to Jeduthun, a psalm of David." David had some great colleagues during his ministry, and three of them are actually named in the Psalms. Jeduthun, another man by the name of Heman, and then Asaph. And these three guys were apparently the accomplished musicians, the worship leaders, if you will, and were responsible for the music that accompanied many of the Psalms, but also writing some of the Psalms themselves. So David dedicates this particular Psalm to Jeduthun. Remember, we talked about in Psalm 38 a bit about David's sorrow over his sin, his suffering because of his sin, and some of that carries through to Psalm 39. And the Psalm has a couple really natural breaks in it. For instance, at the end of verse 5, it says Selah, which was a musical rest. And a lot of times it accompanied the idea behind the lyrics of stop and think about this for just a bit. So Selah at the end of verse 5, Selah at the end of verse 11. And we're going to look at the psalm that way. So let me read the first section, Psalm 39. David says, I said, I will take heed to my ways, that I sin not with my tongue. I will keep my mouth with a bridle, while the wicked is before me. I was dumb with silence. I said, I held my peace, even from good, and my sorrow was stirred. My heart was hot within me. While I was musing, the fire burned. Then spake I with my tongue, Lord, make me to know mine end, and the measure of my days. What is it, or what it is, that I may know how frail I am? Behold, thou hast made my days as an handbreadth. Mine age is as nothing before thee. Verily, every man at his best state is altogether vanity. Selah. So there's a mouthful. David is giving testimony in Psalm 39. And among the things that David testifies is, when I was going through this situation in my life, this time of rebuke, this time of sinful sorrow over sin, all through it, I just said, I'm not gonna talk about it. I don't want to sin with my mouth. I'm not going to respond to my enemies. We read a little bit about that last Psalm. And I'm just not going to say anything. I'm going to go into silent mode. And did you hear what David said? And David said, when I did that, I said, I'm just not going to talk. I'm going to be reclusive, not just physically, but emotionally. And David said, what ended up happening is, I didn't talk about my problems and I didn't respond improperly to the critics, but I also held my peace from good. So it was a double-edged sword. My reclusiveness, my isolation actually festered the problem. And what happened was the more silent I was, the more alone I got, the more it just burned inside of me. the more it festered, the more I just got upset until finally that fire that was burning inside of me, I had to do something. I had to say something. I had to get it off my chest. Now, the good news is that David didn't get it off his chest the way you and I typically get it off our chest by maybe being passive aggressive on social media or telling somebody off or whatever the case is. David doesn't do any of that. What David does is he takes that pressure. He takes all of what's festering in his heart and he takes it right to God. And that's always a good direction to take our frustration. And did you see what it said? He said, my sorrow was stirred, my heart was hot. Lord, make me to know mine end. Lord, I need help from you. Help me to understand the brevity, the frailty of life. Help me to understand just how a wisp and we're here and we're gone. Because sometimes in our trials, we think like time will never stop. Like, oh, this is going to last forever. Or when the criticism is coming or the enemy is flexing his muscles and throwing back his shoulders. So sometimes we feel like, and David said, no, show me, God, that you're great, that mankind is weak and frail and life is fragile and short. Lord, help me to have an eternal perspective about what's going on in my heart, what's burning inside of me. Selah. Stop and think about that. And of course, I'm always reminded of James 4 when I think about any verse like this, because that's exactly what James said. James said, when we get busy in life and we're planning to go here and planning to go there and planning to start this business and get all this done, James said, you're making a fatal flaw. You don't know what tomorrow brings. And we ought to be living, Lord, what is your will? And then I'll live and do this or that. My life is a vapor. And that David is allowing all of this frustration and this silence in his life to make him realize, Lord, help me to understand what is really important. Selah. Look at verse number 6. He says, surely every man walketh in a vain show. These are the things that David is learning in meditation, thinking about God. Surely they are disquieted in vain and busy. You know, we're always going here to there, doing this, getting this done, always got something going on. And David said, as I've kind of been reclusive and silent, as I've taken things to the Lord, as I've kind of gone off the radar screen for a while and just thought and prayed and asked God to give me some wisdom, what I realize is so much of what life is, so much of what people think is so important, and the busyness and hecticness of all of it is really just empty. Have we sensed a little bit about that even this Christmas season? We're just so busy, so frantic, so hectic. And what David said is, but what matters? What's important? What's eternal? Watch what he goes on to say. He said, every man walketh in a vain show. Surely they are disquieted in vain. He heapeth up riches and knoweth not who shall gather them. We're so intent upon it. Got to get more and got to pad my 401k and I've got to be bigger and better and more. And for what? It's like that man that Jesus talked about in Luke chapter 12. Well, I'm rich and increased with goods. I think that's about the Laodiceans in Revelation 3, but the passage in Luke 12 about that man, look at all the goods I have. What should I do? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just build bigger barns to store all my stuff. I'll buy another storage unit. And Jesus said, thou fool, thou knowest not that tonight thy soul shall be required of thee. And David's learning some things, isn't he? About just the frenetic pace of life and how empty it is without God. Verse 7, and now, Lord, what wait I for? My hope is in thee. Lord, help me not to jump back in that hamster wheel. Help me not to get on that treadmill. Lord, what am I going to do? What have I learned in this reclusiveness? What have I learned in my frustration? What have I learned going to God in prayer? What have I learned taking a step back and looking at all of it? I've learned, Lord, I need to wait on you. I need to put my hope in you. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Make me not the reproach of the foolish. David realizes what matters is our walk with the Lord. What matters is our personal holiness, being right with God. I was dumb, in other words, not speaking. I opened not my mouth because thou didst it. Thou did it. Lord, you did it. So David said, boy, there's all kinds of things I could have complained about, all kinds of things I could have belly ached but here's what I didn't do. I held my tongue. Why? Because Lord, I knew that you were in control. I knew that you were orchestrating. I knew this is part of your plan, even your plan to reclaim me. And so Lord, I just, in this time of frustration, in this time of prayer, in this time of reclusiveness, I just decided, Lord, you know best. And you bring things in and people in and out of my life for your purposes. And so, Lord, instead of always jabbering about it, I'm going to stop and reflect upon the sovereignty and wisdom of my God. Verse number 10, remove thy stroke away from me. I am consumed by the blow of thine hand. Lord, I've learned my lesson. Lord, you can stop now. It's not wrong to pray this way, by the way. David is saying this process has been so difficult. Lord, I know it's you, and I know you're right, and I know you're doing it. But Lord, I'm asking, enough. Verse number 11, when thou with rebukes dost correct man for iniquity, thou makest his beauty to consume away like a moth. Surely every man is vanity. Lord, I've learned I'm not nearly as big and as important and as beautiful and as famous and as connected and as whatever else you count as worldly success. And Lord, you've humbled me. You've showed me me. You've showed me the complete inanity of seeking fame and fortune and pleasure and all those things. Lord, I've learned it. Selah. So in the first Selah, David realized, I can't do this by myself. I need to take the fire in my heart and the frustration. I need to take it to God. God, give me wisdom. Help me to understand eternal principles. Help me to understand who you are, what you're doing. In the second Selah, oh God, I've learned my lesson. Lord, you've showed me just how weak and frail I am and just how purposeless this life is without you and all the frenetic activity. Oh God, may I learn that lesson. And then finally, verses 12 and 13, hear my prayer, O Lord. Give ear unto my cry. Hold not thy peace at my tears. Boy, David's sincere, isn't he? I'm a stranger with thee, a sojourner, as all my fathers were. Spare me, that I may recover strength before I go hence and be no more. Lord, what this situation has taught me is it's like, Lord, I have nothing. It's like my life is meaningless. It's like, what's it all about? And what I've realized, Lord, is if I had all those things back that were so important to me but didn't have you, it's meaningless. Lord, I feel like I'm not even a part of your family, a part of your country. I feel like I'm a stranger. And Lord, I need for you to give me the sense of your presence again. Lord, give me a sense of your purpose again. Watch what he says, before I go hence and be no more. Lord, I can't do anything about the past. I can cry all I want about that spilled milk. But Lord, whatever time I have left, let me live for you. I think about, it's December 26th. I think about we have a few more days left in 2024. And we think, well, okay, 2025 is going to be different. But 2025 may never come. Boast not thyself of tomorrow. Thou knowest not what a day may bring forth. You say, well, I've only got a few days left and I've not really lived for the Lord like I wanted to in 2024. Okay, but you can't do anything about the last 360 days. But you can do a lot about the next 5 days. So, Lord, do something in my life. And Lord, for whatever time I have left, Lord, I want to count for you. And so, Lord, today and right now, I make my decision. Oh God, I invite your blessing. Please. That's the heart of David. And that, my friends, ought to be your heart. It ought to be my heart. So let's let God do that in our lives today. Well, thanks for listening. That's it. We covered a whole psalm, and we'll jump into Psalm 40 next time. Hope you'll join us for that. God bless you, my friends.